Welcome, Hartford Cluster. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Mr. Jennings and I work for the Vale Royal School Sport Partnership and I'm a PE teacher at Hartford Church of England High School. Now, normally I'd like to come into school and do the assemblies in person, but unfortunately COVID has restricted us of this. So we have a special guest with us today, an inspiration as someone who has competed at the very, very top level. She is a retired bobsledder. She has competed in 3 Winter Olympics. And in 2006, she earned the best position at 9th. And since then, she's done World Championships. Okay, she has achieved a silver and a gold in 2009 and a silver in 2005. And before she was a bobsledder, Nicola also competed for Sheffield Athletics Club as a shot putter, javelin thrower, and a heptathlete. Now, for those of you who don't know, a heptathlon is 7 events spread over 2 days, and these include 100-meter hurdles, 200 meters, 800 meters, shot put, high jump, javelin, and the long jump. So over 2 days, this is a lot of events and it takes a lot of commitment to be able to complete these. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Nicola Minicello. Welcome, Nicola.
Hi, everybody. It's an absolute pleasure to be talking to you guys today. Obviously, I'd love to be there with you in person, but hopefully soon. This is the next best thing for now.
Thank you very much. So we're going to dive straight into the questions. So the first one I'd like to talk to you about is, since you've retired, what have you been up to?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel so grateful to have had a career in sport, to have been able to compete at the highest level, to have been able to, when it's gone well, win medals. But to be honest, the best thing for me is what I've been able to do since, what opportunities it's provided me with. So I'm very goal orientated, and my biggest goal was to be the best in the world. And I was very fortunate that becoming a world champion, I became the best in the world. And then I wanted to help somebody else become the best in the world, or ultimately help somebody else be the best that they can be. So I was very fortunate. Straight after retiring, I went into coaching, and then I went into helping develop different countries. And now I feel really lucky because for half of the year in the summer, when the bobsleigh tracks are closed, I get to talk to people just like you, which is amazing. I get to talk to different schools and in different environments and talk about how amazing sport is. And then in the winter, I get to go away and coach different teams. So we're working with Brazil, I'm working with Jamaica, I'm working with lots and lots of different countries, helping them be better at bobsleigh. Because it's not always about bobsleigh, it's about how sport can change lives. So getting different opportunities, learning to work hard, learning to work as a team, and seeing how many different places that sport can take you when you really concentrate on it. And that doesn't matter whether you're from England or whether you're from South Africa.
Brilliant. And I think that's an important message for students, is that there's so much more to sport than just the physical side. You can learn team building, the confidence, the resilience as well. I think that's really important for students to take away, that they can achieve so much more.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how has the impact of COVID affected your training and for your coaching, should I say? How's COVID affected that?
Yeah, it's been challenging. I think for everybody, it's been quite a difficult last year and a half, and we've not been able to spend as much time with our friends. We've not been able to focus as much time on our hobbies and the things that we really enjoy doing. And it's really been about finding different ways. And I know even for me personally, when we had the first lockdown, I really struggled, and I feel very fortunate to have had a long career, nearly 20 years competing for Great Britain. But actually, when we were locked down, it was so difficult because we couldn't do our normal things, and I didn't really know what to do. And then I had a really good talk with an amazing friend of mine called Chris, a swimmer, and he said, well, just think of what you can do. And that for me was so crucial, thinking about not what I couldn't do, but actually what I can do. So what I was able to do was spend more time with my family. I was able to learn new skills. I was able to spend more time reading, more time relaxing, and try and do different things that I was not able to do previously. And it's the same when I've been coaching. So my athletes have learned to try and do things differently. I've got one athlete called Shan who competes on the Jamaican team, and he wasn't able to go and practice his bobsleigh. He wasn't able to travel, so he learned how to push his car, and it was amazing because it ended up with BMW giving him a car to push for a year. So it's about finding different ways to work, finding different ways to do things, still achieving the same goals, but using your imagination to think of things as an opportunity and not think of things always as a negative and a bad thing.
So taking the positives out of a difficult situation and just
Absolutely.
restructuring. Okay.
We can't control different things. We can't control everything, but what we can control is how we react to different things. And that for me was crucial.
Brilliant. Brilliant. So we're going to go backwards a little bit now. So we're going to go back to your school experience. How was school for you, and how important was sport when you were at school?
For me, sport in my school was absolutely everything. And really that laid the foundation for where I am today. I struggled academically in school. To be fair, I struggled with sport, but my PE teacher was incredible. And she really inspired me and gave me the confidence to try different sports, to go and attend the clubs. And that helped me because I wasn't confident when I was younger. I was bullied for quite a long time. And I literally, for me, I started doing sport so that I wasn't by myself at lunch times or break times or after school. I started doing sport just to get involved, and my PE teacher was amazing. And I tried every single sport possible. And it took me almost a full year, almost every day of year 7, I tried a different sport. And almost the whole year, I went without making any of my school teams. And right at the end of year 7, I first made my athletics team. I got to represent my school, and it was the most incredible thing in the world, and probably the sporting achievement I'm most proud of. I didn't do any sport out of school until I was 16. However, because of all the different things that I'd tried and I'd learned and I'd practiced in school, that I really believe is what helped me to be able to represent Great Britain by the time I was 19. So yeah, school sport, I really do think it saved me and put me on such a massive path and a massive opportunity.
Again, that's really important for the students to understand that resilience is an important part of growing up and learning to, when you make mistakes or maybe have little knockbacks, that you have to bounce back and keep pushing forward. And if you want something, you'll work hard enough and be committed to it. So that's important for the students. Thank you. And how did you get into bobsleigh? How did you get into bobsleigh? What inspired you to get into bobsleigh?
It's a very random thing. And to be honest, until I was 23 and I got recruited onto the team, I had absolutely no idea what the sport was. So it wasn't that I had a big ambition. I'd never even watched Cool Runnings. I'd never seen or heard anything about bobsleigh. And literally, I was competing in athletics. And for me, I thought that was my path. That was where I was going to be. That was what my future lay. I was going to go to the Olympics, hopefully, in athletics. And then I was 23. I was at home one day and I got a phone call from a random guy on the bobsleigh team that said, did I want to have a go? I said, really don't know what the sport is. He said, well, how do you fancy coming along, having a try? And he said, and if it goes amazing, maybe you could make the Olympics. And if it doesn't go well, maybe you just get to go to Canada for 3 weeks, all expenses paid. So the next day I flew out and joined the bobsleigh team. And honestly, it was only when I actually got there that I thought, oh my goodness me, what is this sport? What's this crazy sport? I have to hurl myself down an ice chute at 100 miles an hour. It was so different to anything I'd ever experienced before, but I was very lucky. I worked really hard and I managed to transfer everything I'd learned from athletics into this new sport. And 6 weeks later, I was very lucky to compete in the Winter Olympics representing Team GB.
Amazing, amazing. I think you just answered my next question, which is, how fast does bobsleigh go? So how fast are we talking?
Yeah, up to 100 miles an hour. It depends because every track is different. So they always build them on the side of mountains, pretty much. And depending on how steep the mountain is, determines how fast you go. So Whistler in Canada is the fastest track in the world because they built it on the side of a really steep mountain. So one that even the skiers don't like to go down. They built this bobsleigh track down. So yeah, you're pulling around about 5.5 Gs, which is a little bit more than a jet fighter pilot, and traveling at speeds up to 100 miles an hour.
Wow, wow. So on that, is it scary then as you're going down?
It's just different. It's really different. I probably wasn't scared the first time because I didn't know what to expect. I was probably more scared the second time. But it's like anything. The first time, second time, when you first start doing anything, it can be a little bit scary and a little bit worrying. But the more you do it, the easier it gets. The more normal it starts to become. And actually, when I'm in the bobsleigh, because I've practiced so much now, everything kind of slows down. So although I'm traveling at 100 miles an hour, and if I'm stood at the side of the track, the sled just whizzes past. Actually, when I'm in, you get into the zone where everything slows down and you're trying to hit these really fine centimeter perfect lines and get your bobsleigh to the bottom of the track as fast as you can.
Brilliant. And how often were you training when you were at the peak of performance? How often were you training?
My whole life was focused on it. So maybe that's a kind of a better phrase. I I was training around about 15 times per week, but as I say, my whole life was focused on it. So to be 3 or 4 gym sessions, 3 or 4 sprint sessions, push sessions, plyometric sessions, fitness sessions, all kind of sessions to allow me to be the best athlete that I could be. But also then we were working on our eye tracking, so making sure that my eyes were able to absorb as much information as possible at those high speeds. Working on my hand-eye coordination, we spent a lot of time working with McLaren. So looking at what do their Formula One drivers do and what can we learn from them to be able to apply it to bobsleigh. So working with different teams. Essentially, to be a bobsleigh athlete, you have to be a really combination of all different skills. So to start with, the bobsleigh weighs 200 kilograms. So you've got to push it from absolute still as fast as you can. And then after about 30 meters, it's already starting to go down the mountain. You have to be able to keep it at top speed and then jump in. So it's like a sprinter and then a gymnast. And then it's my job to drive the bobsleigh down the hill. So then I become a Formula One pilot. And then when we've finished the run, it's my job to take the bobsleigh apart and put it back together. So it's a real combination of so many different skills and factors. And it's just amazing.
Took a lot of commitment as well to get where you were. It's brilliant. And you and Scott from Hartford Primary would like to know, what was your diet when you were training for the bobsleigh?
Oh, it's a great question. I'm a big believer in balance. So you can have you can have a little bit of chocolate as long as it's a little bit and it's a lot of broccoli. You can have a little bit of juice as long as there's also a lot of water. So it's about bringing balance. As long as you're having a good combination of carbohydrates to give you lots of energy, as long as you're having a good combination of protein to help build your muscles, and as long as you're having lots and lots of vegetables to give you all the nutrients and all the different vitamins that you need to help your body recover, then anything really is possible. So I didn't really follow a strict diet. I just used to make sure that everything was in moderation, and that helped me to be the best in the world.
Fantastic. And Ewan has also asked, how do you drive a bobsleigh? Is it hard?
And that's a great question. It's just different. So it's like a go-kart. So you've got the front of the sled and the back of the sled, and kind of the people sit in the middle of it. So the front of the sled is an axle, and that moves left and right. So if I'm driving it like a go-kart, if I pull right, the bobsleigh turns. If I pull left, the bobsleigh turns. But if you can imagine doing that on the sides of the walls of the actual track, so you're pulling down or pulling up, depending on what you need to get out of the corners. And if you pull too late, you crash. If you pull too early, you crash. If you pull the wrong way, you crash. So it's just that skill of finding the fastest way down the track without driving too much, because that slows you down, but not crashing in the end.
And doing this is with someone else or multiple people requires a lot of teamwork, a lot of communication, again, a lot of commitment with each other, a lot of trust as well.
Yeah, so absolutely. Especially the person in the back, because with me as the driver, as soon as they get in, it's down to me to drive us safely down to the bottom of the track. So they have to have full trust. And yeah, it can be quite challenging, especially if I make a mistake and we do end up tipping over.
But again, it's the resilience of coming back and working with each other again, learning from it. Learning mistakes are fine. You learn from them though.
I've crashed my bobsleigh so many more times than I've won races. But I won races because when I crashed, I got back in and went again and again and again. The only time you actually fail is when you stop trying.
Brilliant, brilliant. And so bobsleigh, absolutely incredible. Winter Olympics, World Championships, incredible. You now go into coaching. Mm-hmm. Who are your inspirations for now? Who are your inspirations currently?
It's a great question. I have lots of different people that I admire, and it was probably the same when I was an athlete. So there's not necessarily one person that has all the different traits that I admire in themselves. I like lots of different people. So I think you can learn something from everybody. When I was an athlete, I really liked David Beckham. I like Jackie Joyner-Kersee. I like Roger Federer. I like Serena Williams, lots of different things. And now transitioning into coaching, some incredible people. Clive Woodward was a big inspiration. There are the guy that coached Manchester United, Alex Ferguson, was a big inspiration. It's anybody who tries something differently, anybody who does something different. It's about being able to change people's perceptions and change something that perhaps was routine. So not being afraid to be different. Yeah. I know when you're at school, when you're younger, it's quite difficult to be different. I know for me, being different for me was that I got bullied, but actually what I realize now is because I was different is the reason I'm a world champion. So one of the biggest traits I admire is somebody who's not afraid to be different and to challenge the norm. And that's really what helps people be successful in the end.
Brilliant. Fantastic. So do you agree that trying lots of sports has helped your career, and should the children watching our assembly be trying to do the same, trying to experience loads of different sports instead of just focusing on one?
I agree 1,000,000%. The reason why I got to be successful and got to compete for Great Britain is because when I was at school, I tried everything. And from every single sport and every single sporting experience, you learn something, you take something slightly different. So I learned to be resilient, I learned to be agile, I learned to try new things and develop different skills. I thought my path would be in athletics. And actually, because I was brave and I took that step and I agreed to try something totally crazy that I'd never heard of at this sport called bobsleigh, that's the reason why I'm a world champion. So you don't know what you're actually going to be good at. You might think you're on one path, but actually your path and your destiny may be somewhere totally different. The more sports you try, the better you will be at whatever sport. Even if you're 100% certain you want to be a footballer, actually the research and the data shows now the more sports you try, the better footballer you will be. And it's the same in any sport. The more you try, the better you'll be, not only at sport, but at life.
Fantastic. And there's a lot of links between each sport. You've just got to take certain things from one sport, apply it to another. Again, it comes back to the whole teamwork, communication. All these life skills can be applied in sport, and that's important as well. So finally, final question, put you on the spot a little bit. So currently the Euros are going on. Come on, who's going to win it? Now you've got a little bit of heads up because you've had a few important games have happened since it's happened now. So you're limited to the teams you can pick. So
yeah, I've got to say I would have tipped France until the Switzerland game, and yeah, Belgium are looking good, but England absolutely have got the potential to go all the way without question. Especially now some of the big favourites are out. They've got the potential to go all the way, and it's whoever holds their head together better. I think we've seen some fantastic football. We've seen some underdogs perform really well and really put pressure on Italy, on all the different teams. So now it's amazing, and that's the best thing about sport, the fact that we don't know what the result's going to be. You never know what's going to happen, and that's what makes it super exciting. I'd love to think England will do very well, but time will tell.
We will see. Okay, and could you just maybe leave us with a sporting message for our Hartford community?
Yeah, absolutely. So Hartford community, the more sport you do, the better your life will be. It will change your life. For some people, for me, it saved my life. The biggest three things that I've learned from becoming a world champion is, number one, if you have a goal, if you've got something you want to achieve in life, you absolutely can achieve it. You just have to work really hard. Sport taught me so many different skills. Sport taught me so many different life lessons, and working hard was what really helped me become a world champion. The second thing was that there is no such thing as failure. There really is not. The only time you can possibly fail is when you stop trying. Up until that point, you've just found a different way. It didn't work. Like I say, I've crashed my bobsleigh so many more times than I won races, because when I won races, I got back in and kept going again and again and again. And the third thing is, you have to be that voice of positivity in your head. Unfortunately, especially in our culture in England, lots of people will tell you can't do something, or you're not good enough, or this or that, or you might tell yourself, I don't think I can do this. Actually, your brain can only process one set of information at any one time. So you have to be the person that tells you the most important 4 words in our language, which are, I can do this. And if you can tell yourself that, which is the exact same thing we said when we were on the start line for the World Championships, anything really is possible. Sport is amazing. Sport teaches you to be not only a better person, but successful. And whether that be successful in sport or just successful in life, sport is the center to develop all those skills.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So thank you to everyone from Hartford Cluster for watching. Thank you, Nicola, for being an inspiration and the person you are. I hope to come into schools very soon. Thank you very much. Take care. I'll see you soon. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.